Since it's consecration, we thought we would keep it a little light tonight and talk a little bit about the Parsha, but get a lot of involvement from those who are just not only our consecrants, but of the other kids, the smattering, more than smattering of kids who are in the congregation tonight. So I'm going to need their help, helping me understand something from the Torah in this week's Parsha. So we have a double Torah portion. Tazria Metzora was last week. Some of the Jewish world is doing Tazria Metzora this week, but we are doing Acharei Mot and Kedoshim, a doubleheader nonetheless, whether you're in the Reform movement, live in Israel, or in the diaspora. It's a long story. I'm not getting into it. There are two very interesting lines back-to-back in this week's Torah portion, the second of which is all about holiness. In fact, it's called the Holiness Code. The Holiness Code. What is holiness, by the way? What does it mean to be holy? Someone help me. Not an adult. Yes, sir. What is holiness? I got you. Hold on. Yes, sir. Holiness. What is holiness? What does it mean to be holy? To be good. That's one thing that is part of being holy. What is it to be good? It's always that follow-up question. What does it mean to be good? Give me an example of something to be good. Pick up what? Pick up someone's what? Oh, if you're walking down the street or you're at school and your classmate drops their backpack and everything goes all over the place, help them put it back in their backpack, right? That's very kind. That's a good example. So what's another example, or what does it mean to be holy? To be holy. To be holy. Yes. Picking up, there's a lot of trash out there. There is just, or putting out the trash, which is part of your chores or helping your parents out. So to be holy is to, it's a good thing. Both of these things are mentioned in this week's Parsha in one way or another. So if your parents give you the chores, like taking out the trash, very good. That is one way of being holy, listening to your parents telling you what to do. Yes? Following the rules. What are the rules? I mean, everyone has different rules. What's like one of the rules that you follow? What's a rule? Don't whisper to. What's one of the rules you follow at home? What's one of the rules? No electronics at night. It overstimulates your brain. I mean, listen to me. I never fall asleep because I'm always looking at those things, the text and the Twitter and the. Oh yeah, we don't do what we do. Do what we say. But one way of following the rules is not, that's a good rule. Don't play with electronics within, they say, an hour or two before night time. Anyway, this Torah portion is all about all of these things that help us to know what God wants us to do, and in some cases not do, that help us to be kadosh. The Parsha begins with, Kedoshim tihiyu, ki kadosh ani Adonai Elohecha. You should be holy because I am holy, and God figures, why not be more godlike and be holy? Now, one way of being holy, according to this week's Parsha, is to, are you ready for this? It's called the Golden Rule. V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, love your neighbor, love your fellow, love other people. L'reacha kamocha, love your neighbor as yourself. As you want to be loved by other people and cared for, love back. That's what it says. But do you know what it says right before that line? Before that line, it says, well, let me put it this way. It says something to the effect of, but don't hate anyone. It says, first, don't hate, and then it says to love everyone as yourself. But one other thing it says right before the don't hate part is it's okay to have an argument. It's okay to get into a verbal exchange, a heated exchange with someone. Has anyone ever been in an argument before? Is anybody argumentative with their parents as if they are practicing already to be trial attorneys? I have one, my oldest. Yes? So, what do you think the Torah means, that Moses means, that God means when God says, Moses says, the Torah says, you're allowed to have a fight, argument, not a fist fight, but a fight with words. But you're not allowed to hate another person. You're not allowed to let the argument build into hatred. What do you think that means? What do you think the Torah means? The love one I kind of get. That's a little bit easier. But what do you think the Torah means when it says that you can have an argument with someone but you can't hate them? What do you think that means? Does anyone want to help me? Yes. What do you think that means? Did you just kind of want to raise your hand and get called on? Ugh, what a punum. Your braid is beautiful, by the way. What does that mean? I said love thy neighbor is the easy part, but what? Kids first, and then we'll get to the adults. Or big kids. We'll get to the big kids in a second. But what do you think it means? Don't hate someone. Why do you think the Torah is insistent on not hating someone? What is that the Torah means? Yes, sir.
He's trying to say, like, don't hate someone because you'll probably be hated back from them, and that's just not good.
That is messed up. He said something very brilliant. Just as love leads to more love sometimes, hate can also lead to more hate. You start hating on someone, they're going to hate you back, and then you got hate. Does anyone remember Star Wars, the movie Star Wars? Now I'm going to the older group. And you remember what Yoda says about fear becomes anger, and anger becomes and hate. He says fear becomes anger, and anger turns into hate, and hate leads to anguish or something like that. And Yoda, is named for the Hebrew word Yodea, which means to know. He's the knower. I'm not making that up. His name is Hebrew. I'm not making that up. Yodea, Yoda, the knower. He's saying hate can lead to, he actually uses the word suffering. Love does not lead to suffering. I mean, you really hit the nail on the head, my friend. Love does not lead. If I love someone else and show love to someone else, chances are pretty good they're going to love me. And if they don't love me, they're not going to hate me for loving them. I mean, that doesn't work. I know that's a word problem. We're not good at those. It's late. But hate can lead to more hate, which leads to more hate, which leads to suffering. Not good. So now let's put it together. The Torah says you can argue with your fellow man or woman, your friends. You can have arguments, but do not hate them. Love your neighbor as yourself. Someone help me understand what that means, and we are good to go on this Shabbat. And if you can figure this out, you will solve a lot of problems we're having in our country right now. Because let me tell you something, the adults in this country right now, they don't know how to talk to each other. They don't know how to argue with each other without hating each other right now. And there's a lot of hate in our country right now, and it's not okay. People don't even know how to argue with each other anymore. Used to be, if you read the Talmud, they argued back and forth. They even called each other names in Aramaic. But they never hated each other. Even the two great rabbis of Jewish history, Rabbi Hillel and Rabbi Shammai, argued nonstop. But they never hated each other. They respected each other. They respected their arguments. So, what does it mean? What do we learn? We learn that when we're starting to get those feelings like the argument is turning into something more than words, and we're getting the feeling like we're starting to get like they are on the television sometimes, those adults who just sit there yelling at each other. By the way, they're entertainers, right? They're trying to get you to watch them so that you'll watch more of them. Most of the time, I don't even think they believe in what they're saying or even know what it is that they're saying in some cases. But when it gets everyone riled up and they start yelling at each other and they have no respect, they're not loving each other. So your job, consecrants, kids, big kids, show a little more love and respect. Argue. It's the Jewish way. Argue. Use your words. But respect other people think sometimes different things. And love your neighbor as yourself. That's why it's called the golden rule, right? Because if everyone acted that way, didn't turn their arguments into hate fests, and loved each other as they would themselves want to be loved, we'd all have a lot of gold. I really believe that. Okay. I think we're good to go on this Shabbat. Hopefully you'll come to Torah study at 9 a.m. tomorrow. We'll learn a little bit more about some of the other rules, about weights and measures and equality and fairness and justice and all kinds of good things. Shabbat shalom. It's great to have James Levy here, a member of our board of directors, the